Hey, for this episode, I've got a work trip this week, so I'm not really going to get a lot done on the Tich. But if you watch the videos with the timing and so forth, you've seen that these parts for the brake system, they got corroded. So I decided I took the brake system off of the locomotive. It was not too hard to drop. A little bit hung up with the front hangers because of the tight clearance there with the rear cylinder cover. So I've already ground off a little bit on the back of those just to make them a little bit thinner so it'd be easier to put back. I've gone through the process of cleaning and sanding all of the parts. This one I haven't done yet, so thought I'd shoot the video now. I'm just going over it. I've cleaned them off and I'm going over it with 400 grit sandpaper just to get it a nice surface. And my plan is I'll clean them off with the acetone here and then start with this bluing compound, and when that's done I'll shoot them with the birchwood Casey barricade. It's like a gun oil. I'm not a gun guy, but in my youth I did restore a couple of guns, and the super blue stuff works really well. It holds up pretty nicely too, and it looks pretty natural for a steel surface. I won't be able to do all of the fasteners are stainless steel, so those will be shiny in case you're wondering. Alright, I'll keep you posted when I put the first coat of blue on. Here we have all the parts cleaned and laid out. All the steel parts. I try to separate the cast iron brake shoes and the brass rods and the stainless steel fasteners. Obviously I put them out of the way so make it easier to go. My plan is to use this little forcep thing. Use a hunk of the blue towel as my swab, and then swab them each, dip them in cool water. I have a little bucket of clear water here, and then I'll just repeat till they're dark enough. Okay, here we go after the first coat. What I do, it says to coat it and then let it sit for 30 seconds and then rinse it. What I do, I just coat the whole batch. Probably took about 10 minutes, so that stuff's soaking in. Right now I'll rinse all these things off with cold water, dry them off, and put one more coat on. Repeat that before letting them dry overnight. Do a little close up. Here's the part that I started with first, so I think 2 coats is going to be plenty. Here's the parts. 2 coats of blue, rinsed and dried, and then laid out and sprayed with 1 coat of the barricade. This is just the first side. I'm going to let it set on there for a little bit, and I'll flip them all over, spray it down again, and then tomorrow night I can come back and kind of buff them up a little bit. Alright, here we go after 2 coats of the Birchwood Casey Super Blue, and sprayed barricade on both sides of it, let it set overnight, and then I just wiped it off. A good bit of it had evaporated, the barricade oil, that is, but it's just fine now. It's just right, and plan to put it all back together. All the parts that didn't get the bluing are over here, so my plan is just to put it back together and put it in a shoebox here till I can adjust it and put it back on the chassis. I want to leave it off for now while I get the remaining things done on the chassis to get it ready to run on air. Okay, here we are with the framework basically reassembled. It was no big deal, it took a few seconds. One thing I did though, went ahead and put some blue Loctite. This is just the medium strength thread locker in where all these countersunk screws go in, just to hold them, because I noticed when I was testing the chassis a couple of times they would pop loose because there's just not a lot of material back there that they go into. This way, that should keep them in place anyway, and it doesn't affect the function of the brake shoe. They can still wiggle about the axis of the, if I could just show that, of the hanger. It's, come on now. There's still wiggle room. Let me show this one. Maybe this will show. There you go. You can see it still moves, and it'll adjust okay. I think so. What I think about doing, I'm going to just set this together and put it in the shoe box. I'll show you what that's like in just a second. And there's the brake assembly all set together and ready to rock. All I need to do is lift it up and turn it over, hang it down, and it should all be properly oriented to install.